So back again today. I'm going to gotta lengthen up that wire in the transmission and get the frame drilled out for the remainder of the bolts that we're going to put into it. So let's get some stuff cleaned up. We got kind of a little bit of a mess going on here, and make some room, and we'll just get after it. So close, so close. Everything's bolted up underneath transmission except for the flex plate. So I'm gonna have to get in there and do that, but parts showed up. So let's look at them. So I got that fuel sending unit that is for a 87 C10, R10, whatever the heck they call them. And yeah, looks like it's got a pump in it, so we'll have to throw our pump in it and all the supplies. And then we got our fuel tank, our fuel tank. So let me open this up. Well, old versus new. New one you can see a little bit smaller than the old guy. I was talking the baffle on the inside, or the well. You can see inside there kind of that there's a well in there that the fuel pump is going to sit in to keep it from starving from fuel and everything else. So definitely an improvement. Straps are just going to be a little bit different, and I'm sure that there's probably spots in the frame rail that'll bolt up to. If not, we'll just put it in the stock location where it was, and then we'll just have to extend out our fill neck tubes, but that's not that hard. All right, so our old fuel pump is out. Our new one is in. The reason why you had to swap these is because that one's only like 17 PSI. That one gets up to like 75 PSI or something like that. I don't remember what it was. It's pretty high, but that'll be enough for our LS. This one just wouldn't push enough fuel to what we needed to do. So we're good there. Pickup sock is on. I almost forgot that. Don't forget those. So now we're going to drop it in with the O-ring and put the sending unit in. Okay, now that we got the straps all put on the fuel tank here, we're going to go ahead and figure out fuel lines. Gotta mess with those freaking mud daubers. Holy cow. They're all in those brackets. Anyway. So right, wrong, or indiffer, this is how I'm going to measure for my fuel lines. I got some old string, weed eater string, trimmer line string. And I'm going to tie it off probably on the fuel rail, whatever, one of the, yeah. And I'm just going to run it down and over and then snip it, and however long that is, that's how much fuel line. Got two sizes in that kit. There's not very much, so hopefully we got plenty. Got that size, and then there's a return size, so we shall see what we come up with. What I'm going to end up doing is hooking it to the fuel filter. I'm going to put that inline filter somewhere back there with a holder, and then that way we can unclip that if we got to do service. We're not dragging lines out and doing silly stuff with that. And then also I'm going to finagle up something for probably a longer loop on the return side, just to drop the tank for service. And what else was I going to do? Oh, for the vent, probably put a quick clip connector to the vent line that's already on the truck, because we're going to plumb that into, of course, our top of our motors. Well, here's where I'm at. Lines are in there. I got them routed down on the firewall. Actually going to go on this side of the frame rail because I want to keep that nylon away from the exhaust. Have it ran underneath here. It's tied up loosely. Got the fuel filter installed. I still got to secure that. Goes over to the tank and then drops down. You got enough for service. I got to put it to the ground. Off of it, I use these little compression fittings. It's steel to nylon, special different fittings versus steel to steel or whatever, with the ferrule fittings in there, ferrule gas, I don't know what they are called. Vent tube, I got a piece extra. I'm going to make that go down up over that frame rail and tie that into the stock location. Wire harness, extended it way out so I can get that up and over. So we're gonna go ahead and put that to the frame where it was. Also ended up getting some more hose. Ran it to where the stock vent was. If you remember, it came over to here to where the charcoal canister was. I just ran it up over to where my purge valve is on top of the motor. Couldn't find a really good 90-degree boot, so spark plug wire was boot end. Good enough for right now. So let's go ahead, get the tank lifted up. Just gonna use my jack. I think I'm gonna use just a regular jack on this tank, smaller, it's empty, and drag her up and get her in place. Well, the tank, she's in. Got the new fuel filler. I gotta fix the draping on that new fuel filler. Had to reroute my line, so I gotta do that. I gotta hook up the fuel pump still. So I did have to re-pull my fuse block out again because I had jumper wire hooked up for my fuel pump, and for whatever reason it got unplugged. So I'm thinking that that could be a future problem, coming unplugged. So I think I got to come up with a plan B, which is I have a relay that's over there. It's got the 5-pin that I hooked the fan up to, that I think I might just hook the fuel pump up to. Of course, it'll be triggered. It won't be a feed, but triggered. And then when it fails, it just shuts off. It's the plan anyway. Okay, so fuel line is all ran. Tank is obviously installed. Fuel filter is put in right there. Lines ran through here. We're gonna have to do some kind of shielding for our exhaust when it comes through here, but we'll worry about that later. In the meantime, I popped the transmission pan cover off, letting that drip off. Gonna give this transmission every fighting chance it can. We're gonna pull the filter off, and we're gonna do this rear seal while we're in here. But here's the pan off, and you know, got some material in it, but you know, that's to be expected. It's not terrible. It doesn't smell ungodly gross, so I'm pretty happy with that. We do need to pull this off because it looks like it was stripped off from underneath, so we'll get a new one while we're in there. But I'm going to clean all this up, bring it with, so we have it, clean up the gasket material, and move on. Well, pan's cleaned up, got a new plug there with a magnet. That's kind of nice. Got a Wix filter, and got the little, it's got a rubber, that'll work. Yeah, only got this little guy. This one's still stuck up into the transmission. Make sure you pop them off. You don't have two of them in there because you'll screw up the filter on there and it won't filter like it's supposed to. So I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall all this. And what else did we get? Where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, 100% of the time where I left it. Got a new tail shaft yoke slip ring gasket. So we're gonna slap this guy on too. So if you're gonna do the seal, tail shaft seal here, it's pretty simple. You're gonna need a Harbor Freight seal puller like this, and it's basically gonna sit in there like that. And then you just get the seal puller, pop it off, get the new one in there, tap it in there. I am gonna run some grease on there just to get it nice and easy tapping in. And I'm gonna clean up that tail shaft because it's got some junk on it. Well, transmission pan's back on there, the seal's in there. Torque converter is bolted up. Now just kind of going through, doing a final check and balance. I went through, wired up the fuel pump wire. Of course, it's just loosely on there for right now. It's in the F1 C3 block in there. So the PCM is going to control it. So just went through doing some digital work, making sure that the multimeter wasn't flipping out with, you know, extra grounds or anything like that. So I think we're ready to throw the battery on it and turn the key over. Hopefully the fuel pump will kick over. If that does, we'll put some fuel in it. We'll check the fuel lines for leaks. And then we will probably put probably a couple quarts of transmission fluid in, not much because I don't have the tail shaft. Fill it up with oil, and I think we're going to fire it up just quick. I don't have my gauges hooked up yet. Bought these things for whatever. Well, we want to hear it fire over. Then I'll go through and make sure, plug in oil pressure, get oil pressure, temp, all that stuff, and then we'll do a couple heat cycles, top off other fluids like power steering, radiator, you know, all that stuff. But first things first, let's see if we get some fuel pressure. Well, fuel pump, fuel pumpage going. Whoop. You know, that's what I mean. All right, well, battery's hooked up. Let's see if we get power. Okay, we got headlights. Shh, you listening? I think it kind of kicked over. I don't know. Maybe. All right, so I just pulled the wire off of the fuel pump again from underneath the relay block. Not sure, the computer's just not sending the signal, or if I got it plugged in the wrong spot or whatever. I just hardwired it. So go ahead and just put it to a positive and you can hear it kick on. And I don't know if you can see that. Let me flip over. Got the Schrader valve hooked up to a fuel gauge here and build up some pressure. Doing something. It's like 57 pounds, which is exactly where we want to be. So that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and run it here for a couple. I heard it bubbling out of the vacuum there. It might just be, I don't know, purging air out. But I'm gonna purge some air, purge it here for a second, and then I'm gonna check for leaks. It's actually holding, so that's kind of telling me that we're holding pressure pretty good, so that's good. But I'm gonna run the pump here a little bit. I got about 3 gallons of gas in the tank, and then I'm gonna check for leaks, and I'll check in back with you. Not impressed. Let me show you why. So the pressure hasn't dropped a whole lot. We're down maybe 12 pounds or so. I'm gonna relieve the pressure out of the system, see if the leak goes away. That'll tell me if it's on those lines. I'm pretty sure it's those lines because I don't know why else it would, but yeah, we'll fix that here before we fire this up. I did go ahead and put Earl in the engine, 4 quarts. So yeah, but I'm getting hungry, so it's almost dinner time. I'm gonna do that. Well, tank's out. Just I figured these fittings are leaking. So, well, I guess I don't know. I'm gonna have to think on this for a bit. Get some dinner. See what my next play is gonna be. So I've pulled off the fuel pressure lines because I think, well, I don't think, I'm pretty confident that they were leaking from the nylon end of them compression fittings. So what I ended up doing is the kit has these little barbs for it. So I'm going to put these into the line and just use the compression fitting on the steel end. Steel end seemed to be holding up pressure just fine. So going to do that. I got the one side I got to do. I got this side already done for the fuel feed line. So we're gonna go ahead and plumb this on, and that'll be my release if I gotta service the tank. Yeah. So we'll get that in there and show you the results. All right. Well, it's in there. Desk. Loosely wired up. Did run a new wire because I didn't like that one. A little bit thicker. So let's pressurize this. See what we got. Okay, we're getting it flowing through. It's filling up. Ooh. Let's go check her out. So our fuel pump, or filter, not leaking. And let's see, what do we got up here? I don't see any drippage. So just like last time, we got the valve hooked up, or the gauge hooked up to the Schrader valve. We'll just run a couple cycles on the pump, make sure it's good to go, and call it a win. If it does hold, do have to unhook the line from the filter again, fish it up to where it originally was. I did just put it like that so I can keep the tank down so I can explore stuff. I'll tell you what, this fuel system, it's a fight. So I did have a plan C if that didn't end up working. And that was, of course, the old Impala fuel sending unit. You can see I snipped off the one line there, kept the end fitting. I was going to get some steel compression fittings and basically use the clip-on fuel injector thing to the nylon line like everywhere else, but I don't know, still possibility. See how it goes. All right, tank's put back up, bolted up, pressurized. It's been holding 40 pounds for, I don't know, about 15-20 minutes. Topped off transmission with transmission fluid. Buttoned up a couple odds and ends with some heat tape over my transmission lines. So yeah, we are about 2 seconds away from firing this up. So let me clean up a couple things off the core support here and try to fire her up, see what it does. So first fire here, I don't actually anticipate on it running for very long. I don't have the O2 sensors hooked up or anything like that, but it is going to be open header, so it's going to be loud. I just want to hear it fire off. Check for leaks, you know, the major leaks that, you know, can be prevented. So let me set you up here. We'll crank her over. Okay. Here goes something. Nothing. Here goes nothing. Prime my fuel pump, get a little fuel in there. I'm not going to run that because I don't want it running for long. Starter sounds rough. Let's go ahead and check some stuff out. Well, guess I'm going to start. Got the multimeter out. And I'm kind of thinking that, you know, our science in here, it's not getting power to where it needs to be. Ignition 1, I'm assuming that relay needs to fire off. and ignition A, you know, all these right here that are starred, 1, 2, ignition, injector 2, ECM. I think we got to have the ECM powered up. Just when I probe them, we ain't got no probage, no voltages going to it. So if we don't have power to our ECM, kind of a problem. We're turning over though, so that's plus. Doing something right. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this fuse box off. Double check where my prongs are. We very well might just be coming up with a plan D, X, G. And I just noticed right there, I don't know if you can see that. It says Snoop. Oh, it says soup. I thought it said Snoop. Digicals. Turns out there's a fuse right here. It is blown. Because now we do our jumper on the F9 and you can hear all the stuff. Doing science. So yeah, I guess now we're gonna go wire it all back in and see what it does. Okay, so hopefully we're back to where we were. Everything's firing over with the relay that I have. Makeshift right there. Let's see what it does. Fired up. See if we can get it running a little bit longer. Good deal. So even though it didn't run very long, I'm gonna check the heat gun. That one fired. That one fired. That one fired. That one fired. So we got all firing on this side. Let's see over here. We got that one fired. That one fired. That one fired. And that one fired. We're banging on all 4 cylinders. Or, yeah, 4. Good deal. So that's going to wrap up this video. She's alive. She's alive. Got a lot more stuff still buttoned up. We're getting close. Got that slip yoke that came in today. Got to put that in. Got to figure out this wire so it's not like, you know, like this. Hook up the fuel pump. I think I'm going to hook it up to the fuel pump relay inside this block now that I know the block is alive. Now that's what we're going to do. Oh, we got to do exhaust. That should about get it running. So thanks everyone for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Doing awesome. See you guys next time.